this board of trustees is like you are setting up a private university, and therefore they have to be screened at the end of the day. So the initial proposition now is that the president of the NMA should be a board member, and then the association can decide on having other board members. Next slide, please. So what is the strength of the Nigerian Medical Student Association? Nigerian Medical Association. I think our major strength is that we have the staff. Because whatever we are doing, it is the human resource. And I think as member of the NMA, you virtually have everything from the basic medical to medical sciences to basic clinical and then to clinical. But importantly, you have to have a teaching hospital. And I think that will be much easier to get if you are in Abuja, and then you get a rural person site. So knowing what Abuja is not a difficult thing to get a rural person site and this requirement. Next slide, please. So the NMA may decide to have a collaboration, and that is the slide before this one. I finished with the, you can decide to have a collaboration, in which case, since you have the sheer number of the academic staff, you have the ability to raise the money. And I don't think it is a big deal for the NMA doctor raising money to do a university. And then there's the commitment. Next slide, please. So you can decide if you don't have enough money to do collaboration. And I believe our colleagues in diaspora should be able to come here. Or you can have other consideration. There are other rich men in this country who are ready to collaborate. You have the number, you have the strength, and you have the commitment. So if NMA doesn't have enough money to purchase land, which I understand a land of 20 hectares now in Abuja will cost you a minimum of 150 to 200 million. So you can now at least budget between 300 to 350 million in order to buy the land. I'm not giving you budget for the building at the time, for the time being. But as far as teaching hospital is concerned, you can collaborate. Next slide. So there are some challenges. The first one is getting the license. And I will be talking about how to get a license for private university, and there are about 14 steps. Then the next one is, the advice is you start at least with 2 faculties. In that case, there will be sustainability. You can have a faculty of science, meaning anybody starting medicine will have to do basic sciences, chemistry, biology, physics, and mathematics. And then you have to consider what you will need in terms of resource verification and the accreditation of the program. Next slide. So there are new guidelines now for establishing private university in Nigeria. I think the first one is that you have to get a letter sent to the National Universities Commission. And I think probably this committee have written as a letter of intent. It is just the intention to declare your intention, to give your aims, to give your objective, and to say why is the likely location of this university if it comes to be. Then this same letter now will be sent to the Corporate Affairs Commission. It is after that letter going to Corporate Affairs Commission, then you will now be given the go-ahead to register the university as a company. Then you have to consider the new policy regarding private universities. I think for the time being, the current Minister of Education, incidentally, is a doctor. He has suspended till end of next month establishment of new private universities. So NMA can have that maybe after end of May in order to apply and get other things. Next slide, please. So the proposition. The proposed faculty, as I mentioned, is you can start with the Faculty of Science. When you have Faculty of Science, you are simply doing chemistry, biology, physics. And then you have now Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences. As doctors, we know after Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences is Faculty of Clinical Sciences, Faculty of Allied Health, Faculty of Clinical Sciences, and Dentistry. But the NMA doesn't have to go all at once. As I mentioned earlier, my advice is start with the first 2 faculties, and then you can now escalate. Next slide, please. So having done that, we will now look at the requirement on how to do establish medical university. Next slide. So in order to establish private medical university and any university, there are NUC guidelines. And as you can establish university either as an individual, as an organization, or you can cooperate with others overseas to establish any university. And the relevant section of the country's law are there. Next slide. So the criteria is there. Initially, you have to have a company incorporated, and already NMA is in existence. With the letter from the NUC, you cannot incorporate Nigerian Medical University or any other name that you have adopted. Next slide, please. So we need to decide that who will be the promoters or the sponsor of the university. It is left for the NMA, ESCO, and this house to decide who will be these promoters. The promoter must necessarily be there, and then it must be submitted to CAC before we move forward. Next slide. Then the board of trustee. We have to have a board of trustee. This board of trustee must be people of renowned character, because they will be screened by the SSS, they will be screened by the DIA, they will be screened by the police. So, and I don't think any member of this association will have any criminal record. I don't think so. Next slide, please. So, but first of all, you must know to have what is called Project Implementation Committee. Because this Project Implementation Committee, next slide, is the one that will carry out this, what you intend to do. And the composition of the PIC, you must have a medical doctor and an academician. You must have an architect. You must have a lawyer. You must have somebody who will look after your finances. And importantly, you must have somebody like a secretary who is an admin officer. So these are the next step for the NUC. Next slide. So there are about 14 steps in order to have that. The first step now is writing an application. You write an application and you collect forms and fill it at the National Universities Commission. The form will contain the proposed university name, it will contain the location, it will contain your vision and missions. And you have to pay for this one at the National Universities Commission. Next slide, please. So the second and third step is when you collect the application forms, it will be processed and then you return it. And they will give you copies of the guidelines for establishing medical university. And these are now official. Next slide. Step 4, you must have now these 3 documents. You must have a draft of academic brief, you must have a university law, and then you must have a physical master plan of the site you intend to do. So these 3 documents are very important. That is academic planning, the site plan, and also the other legal document. So this document now will follow after you have gotten some deed of assignment. Because any land the enemy is purchasing, obviously we will have all the documents, and there doesn't have to be an issue with that. Next slide. So when you get this document, you must show evidence of what I mentioned earlier, of at least 200 million, a bank guarantee that will be given to the National Universities Commission. When you have that, then they can move on. The essence of this one is in the event the university doesn't take off, they can use your money to settle the student you have already taken. Next slide. Then you now have a meeting with the Directorate of Establishment of Private Universities. When you have that meeting, you will also meet the Secretary of the National Universities Commission, the Executive Secretary, and that will show that the NMA is committed to go on with this project. Next slide, please. So once you do that, step 6, next slide. So once you have done those first 3 documents, you now return them back to DEPU. Next slide. With those documents now, they will analyze your 3 documents you have submitted and get it back to you for any correction and or addition. Next slide. It is after this documentation, they will now visit your site, and they call this first verification visit. When they visit the site, they will now see what you have put in terms of infrastructure, not equipment at this stage. It's only infrastructure. That is the first verification visit, meaning to be sure you are ready to continue with this university. Next slide. It is after this visit, then they will now advise the NUC management that you are due for second verification visit. Next slide. So the second verification visit is the last visit. It is expected at this visit, you would have purchased some fee equipment to start your first faculty. You would have shown evidence that you have staff to do that. You would have shown evidence you have equipment and the infrastructure. They will do that. Next slide. Then the money matters, which I mentioned, they will now confirm that 200 million guarantee you have the bank that the money is still there and is owned by the Nigerian Medical Association. Next slide. So the next one is that they will be screening now your security, your board of trustee members by the SSS I mentioned, and also the NIA and the police. Next slide. So when that one is done, you will now get approval by the manager of the National Universities Commission that NMA is now free to establish the university of their choice. Then with that approval now, it will go to the board from the board, it will go to the ministry. And then, next slide, then from the ministry, which is the final say, it will go to Federal Executive Council. When you have approval from the Federal Executive Council, then you are good to go. Next slide. Next slide. So the next one is now an advisory visit from the Medical and Dental Council, so that the students you have taken have not stagnated. Next slide. And then further accreditation visit by the National Universities Commission. And when that one is done, then you are now allowed to write to JAM. They will give you your quota based on what you have, and then you now start admitting students. Next slide. So I think it is doable. If enemy wants to do it, I think it is doable. You have made some intention, you go for resource verification, and you have the money. So this is the end of my presentation while we wait for questions and answers. Thank you. You want this?
Hello. So we've had the presentation of the proposed medical university, which can later be converted into a conventional university as we grow stronger, as a way of the NMA establishing asset-based organizations that will improve our asset base and make us a key player in tertiary health education, and particularly direct players in medical education. So please, any questions for the presenter? Questions? We'll give numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4 to begin with. Let him answer as the questions are answered. Number 1.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I am Dr. Jibril Gwandu, Kebbi State, NME. The situation you talk about with the corporate appeal commissions, was it going to be solely for the university, or is it going to be registering NMA to serve as the even so that it can assess contracts and participate in other bidding, those like other businesses, companies? Does it entail that? Thank you. I think that's my question. Thank you.
Answer him. What's your answer? Sorry, the CSC registration. I think since we have not finished doing it all, we should make it, I think, all-encompassing. Meaning we can do university, we can do other company, we can do anything. So there is still a window for that. So I think if the House agree, we'll open it to make it all-encompassing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Yakase, for this very important presentation. I'm Dr. Professor Ademudala Dibojude from NMA Gombe. Mr. President and the NOC, I actually commend you for this very important effort. It's high time. In fact, at a time when MD can actually commence the HMO, that actually impressed me. And then with this issue of a university, I'm also impressed further. I encourage you to do whatever is possible to actually make this as soon as possible. I envision 1 year, 6 months before the end of this current tenure, that at least a vice chancellor is appointed, or the management of the university are appointed. And going forward, we hope to actually continue to support this initiative. Well done, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you for the support. Number 3 is here, I think. So that is a word of encouragement, meaning NMA should proceed with this novel initiative. So I think we accept that, and I'm sure the House are in support of what you have said, Adamu. Thank you. Number 3. Yeah, no microphone with you?
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, members of NOC and ladies and gentlemen. I would say it's very laudable, objective. However, I also want to bring to your notice that 100 hectares of land is a very large space, which definitely you can't get can't be located within the city. You have to be on the outskirts of the Abuja. So what my question is it possible, being an association of this great nature, noble association, is it possible to, the issue of procuring land, appealing to the government of FCT to assist in this regard? Because I want to also let you know that NMFCT was lucky enough to be graciously given land in the past, up to the tune of 18 hectares by the same government. Is it possible that NMA can apply for such a help, or are we going to buy it? Then, coming to buying, you mentioned 340 million. I am afraid that it may not be feasible to procure a land that is up to 100 hectares in Abuja with that kind of money. It seems to be impossible. Then, because I also want to let you know that recently, it's not just procuring such a land, but there's no policy in FCT now that you get, if you procure a land and you don't develop within 2 years, they will revoke it. We should have all this in mind, because unless this current government is no longer in power, but as far as this government is in power, the rule now is that if you procure a land, if you don't develop it within 2 years, the government revoke it. And coming to issue of the land, because it's a very important part of the presentation, a CFO, buy land is not just enough. Buy land, if you don't pay CFO, pay land rent, it's still not your own. Just for this 18 hectares of land, I want to tell you that we paid almost 90 million naira as CFO, and ground rent up to 5 million naira. I'm not looking at 100 hectares. So I have all these things in view. Otherwise, Abuja is a very, very good place for it to be located. And I encourage all of us to key into it and see how it can be realized. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned, yes, formerly NUC was insisting at 100 hectares. But of recent, there is something they introduced, it is called like city campus or other side campus. So that now, if you have 20 hectares even, the National Universities Commission will be ready to give you license. However, I think I totally agree with him. If there is a way NMA FCT can help main NMA to get a land, I think that will be very good. Take into consideration what he said. Yes, getting a land is one, getting CFO is one. But I think if the government give us this land, we are not going to spend much in procuring the certificate of occupancy. So, Mr. President, if the NMA FCT can give this a go, I think it's a good initiative. But otherwise, as I mentioned, you may have to buy. And even this land you are buying, within the central business district, you can get a land, as he mentioned, even at 300 million. You're talking of 2, 3, 4 billions. So you have to go into the outskirts, like Mediu, Kuje, Buari, and those areas. You can get land, 20 hectares, 25, at about 200 million or so. So I think we now have two options. Number one is to go to the periphery. Number two is to approach the FCT administration through the NMA to see how they can help the NMA with the land. And taking into consideration what we said, as soon as we get this land, we must start something. So the association must agree they want to go on with this university, so that when they get the land going, then building must start and something must go on. That's what they say, Mr. President. Thank you. Is there any other one?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Mr. President, we need to review any policy we are going to go into. We have our land, our building. How many years ago that be given to us? We are still trying to do something on it. And again, we are not asking for another land. If I'm the government, I will ask you, what have you done with the first one? You look as if, you now look as if enemy is not serious. That's number one. Number two, we have to prioritize what we want to do. We are thinking of going, apart from building, thinking of going to NHIS, to be an HMO, to help our doctors in terms of exaltment they have been getting from other individual HMO. And number three is that you should also think about Japa. Where are you going to get the doctor? Where are you going to get the lecturer? Where are you going to get it? Go to all this medical school, basic science. Either you see a doctor, either you see one or two of them. Where are you going to get it? Our focus as enemy is to focus on policy that we help. First of all, let's build our house before we build any other thing. The second one is to talk about how we are going to reduce Japan. We're not talking about it. Which doctor want to get to do the basic this thing for you? I think my whole view is this. Let's look inward. It's a good idea. Let's look inward. Let's build out what we're supposed to have done. Let's concentrate on that before you go to any venture that will create problem for us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman Lagos. I think this question is directly thrown to the President rather than to the presenter. So I'll answer this question straight on. The development of enemy land is completely independent of developing an enemy university. The enemy land in Maitama is a secretariat. It's not a business entity. There is no business model developed for it. But we are now working on developing a business model for that secretariat building as an office or whatever for other people to utilize. If the NMA wants, the university can be developed from foundation to finish with stakeholder investment. So it is not a trouble for the enemy. For those who have the business sense, and we are going to pull those who have the business sense to draw a business model for us. There are many people who are itching to bring all those people going to China, to Ukraine, to other parts of the world to get substandard medical education. They are ready to bring it to Nigeria. Just last week, go to Abuja and see the African Center of Excellence that is being developed by the African Development Bank in conjunction with the King's Hospital in London. You can see from foundation is rod to the finish is rod. People are not afraid of spending money if they will make their money back, and we have ready investors. If the NMA wants, it doesn't have to put a dime. But what the NMA needs is that intellectual capacity and the business model to make people come in and then they are partners. So it's not a problem, not at all.
Any more questions?
No, the presenter has to leave. So we go to the next item of the issues we have to handle, which is to go on to NEC 1. So we're going to declare NEC 1. Can I have the register, please, before we can declare NEC 1? Okay, please, let's see. How many states, how many participants, how many NEC members do we have? We need 50%, we need 40 okay. For the purpose of our records and constitutional fulfillment, Article 8, Section 3 says that for a quorum of council at all meetings shall be 40 members, provided that half of the total number of branches, which is 19, and two of the members shall be the president or a vice president if the president is not available, and secretary general or deputy secretary general, or the presence of the president, first vice president, second vice president, and any other national officer. So, as far as quorum is concerned, we have formed a quorum with 23 states present and over 40 members present. We have in our presence 3 past presidents, and we have all array of the NOC present except the Secretary General, who is away on an official assignment, and the VP2, who is also away on official assignment. It's not part of the quorum. So we have formed a quorum, and I'm going to declare for NEC 1, sorry. So we'll take the order of proceedings with the national anthem. No, we'll start with the national anthem. So can we do the national anthem, please? Yes, I'll now go to the agenda. We need to do the physician's oath. Are we taking another position? Yes. National anthem, please. It's on page 2 of our documents, but you can follow me. O God of creation, no, this is the prayer. Okay. No, can we have the national anthem, please? Where is the anthem itself, not the prayer? Right. No, I'm just joking. I was brought up with the old national anthem, remember?
Nigeria, we healthy.
Nigeria,
we healthy. Our own dear native land. Though tribe and
do tribes
tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all and proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
Our flag
shall be a symbol that truth and justice
reign
in peace or battle. Honor, and this we count as gain to hand
unto our children.
A banner without stain, O God of all.
So can we go? Yes. We've taken the physician's oath. We took the physician oath earlier, so we are not repeating another physician oath or pledge. We are not repeating the physician's pledge. So go to page 6 of our documents. So, which is the agenda of the NEC. Yeah, no, we'll go there. We have not reached there. So, please, NEC is called to order. Please, let's note the time. The next item on the agenda is the opening prayer, which is the national prayer. Do we need to stand for the national? 1 minute silence. No, the national prayer, that is what it says. So we are in prayers. O God of creation, direct our noble cause. Guide our readers right. Help our youth the truth to know. In love and honesty to grow. And living just and true. Great lofty heights attain. to build a nation where peace and justice reigns. Amen. The next item on the agenda is 1 minute silence in honor of all our departed colleagues. Please, can we all rise in 1 minute silence in honor of our departed colleagues? Amen. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. Amen. Item 4 is review and adoption of the agenda. Please, let's look at the agenda, serial number 4 or serial number 1 to 21 as presented. Can we take time to look at the agenda, please? We have recitation of the mission and vision, presentation of the Abuja December NEC result, President's opening remark, reading adoption of December NEC meeting, matters arising from minutes, correspondences, State of the Association report, regulatory bodies reports, reports of affiliated bodies, annual financial reports, internal audit, NMJ, report from state and branches and other committees, contemporary national and international issues, unveiling of the 2026-24 annual delegates logo and slogan, AOB, adjournment, and closing prayer. Does anybody want to adjust anything in the agenda? Additions, subtractions? Yes, past President Fajole. The mic, please.
Mr. President in Council, I just want to have 4A and 4B. 4B should read apologies so that those who do not make it, if they have the apologies. Thank you very much.
4B apologies. Any additions or subtractions? Can somebody call for adoption of the agenda, please, as corrected? Yes, is that the chairman of, secretary of Kwara NMA?
Good afternoon, Mr. President in Council. My name is Jaya Mubarak Adeyemi, NMA Kwara State Secretary. I hereby move the motion to adopt the agenda as adjusted.
I see my extreme left, a seconder, Chairman NMA Akwa Ibom.
Chairman, the President in Council, I want to second the adoption of the agenda as amended. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the corrections and for the modification and for adopting the agenda. So we go to 4B, apologies for abstentions. First apology comes from the Secretary General, who is actually away in Uruguay at this point. In Uruguay, representing the NMA at the World Medical Association Council meeting, and the first vice president, the second vice president, who is also representing the NMA at a stakeholders meeting on health workforce retention at the Federal Ministry of Health. Past President Fajole, please.
President in Council, I have the apologies of Dr. Sahon Enapulele, a past president who is unavoidably absent. He sent me to tender his apology. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any other apologies? Just in case you remember any, please, you can pass it on to the Secretariat for documentation. Then number 5 is recitation of the enemy vision and mission. This is just to remind us so that we are focused, and it's clearly outlined on page 3 of our documents. Our mission statement of the enemy is to form a formidable professional body committed to the fostering of effective and efficient healthcare delivery, high ethical standards, and the interests of its members.